you everyone for being here. Tonight we continue our discussion with Ojibwe couple Craig and Jennifer Breen, get into some of their experiences and native cultural beliefs about werewolves, wendigos, skinwalkers, little people, you name it. We got a lot to unpack and a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it.
Now, speaking of the little people, in your culture, are they normal? You said they were normally just mischievous and kind of jokestery. Is there any instance where like things can turn more nefarious, or like if you get on their bad side to where like they turn a little bit more vindictive in a way?
Become more like Tony, in other words.
Yeah, just trying to embody me, I guess, huh?
I think so. I think that's where the bad luck, as we say, comes into your life. It's like if you get on their bad side or whatever, they can make your life miserable.
Yeah, I just find it interesting because like there's a lot of stories of little people all over the world, but one thing I kind of find that is like in certain cultures where they have like a very hands-off approach to them, to where it's don't touch them, don't talk to them, don't feed them, don't take anything, don't drink what they have, don't even mess with them.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I think
not
that's
to
where
interfere in their lives, because they will definitely get comfortable with yours.
Yeah.
I think that where it comes from, like a lot of I think that's a lot of stories and a lot of culture where we are taught to not mess with that. Like that's why they're nighttime stories. That's why they're told to keep kids in, so kids can behave, and adults, like a lot of the stories that my mom told me, I still follow and I still believe. And it comes to be a crosshair between me and Craig because he wants to look, and I'm like, maybe we shouldn't. But I think generationally, we have learned that we shouldn't mess with that.
Yes.
So we try not to. And like I said, I get a little bucky sometimes, so I might kind of.
And she's new to these kind of experiences. So after my first encounter in 2003, I looked for what I thought was one single werewolf, which now I know is there's a lot more of them. It's a whole civilization that's been living under us for a long time.
Yeah.
And their secrecy is the most important thing to them.
But our people generationally and across cultures tell these stories so we know not to play with them.
Yes. Yeah, their story, their warnings, they're like, you don't believe them until you see it,
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's going to believe it. Nobody. Even my own family doubt it, even though they believe me. It's just seeing is believing for a lot of people.
I think that's most people. They don't want to believe unless they see it.
Yes. And
even then, they'll try to rationalize it away.
Yes, yeah, and they'll say it's something else because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into your head as a real creature.
Destroys your paradigm.
Just like everyone's an atheist until the plane hits turbulence.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
And they start praying to a God they didn't even know existed.
Or didn't believe existed.
And the sense of dread that they put out when they're around is incredible. I've never felt that, only around them. Or one time when I got into a rollover, I thought I was going to die. That's the only times I've ever felt that feeling. When I was going to die, when I thought I'm on the menu, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of people report that feeling of dread and terror and before an encounter, and then after an encounter, it's hard to shake, and they won't necessarily see the creature again, but they'll feel its presence. Like that happened to me. I felt the presence of it many times.
Yeah, and I think that level of fear actually goes beyond natural human emotion. I think that it's almost like it's an energy that's emanating from these creatures that is then projected onto the people who encounter them.
That was actually going to be my next question. Was because I believe that these things are doing it intentionally, where like they're able to project whether this energy, whatever it is. But I wonder if is it like their emotions or is it like their bloodlust or you know, or is it something they do subconsciously where they have like this predator mindset that they have in their head, so it forces them to just constantly have like that very dangerous sense of being around themselves, because you know, you hear those stories or you'll talk to people and they say how they've met veterans or people who've done or experienced a lot of trauma, and there's like this sense around them, they're like there's something off about them, or there's just something different about them as a person, or you'll hear those stories of World War II vets coming back, and like their eyes, they call them like veterans' eyes because they're just very cold and they're very like lifeless.
Vietnam, Iraq, 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, 1,000-yard stare. You know, and do you think like maybe it's something similar to that, to where it's inherent in them, to where like they just have that kind of off-putting presence?
I think it's even more than that. I think it's like they get more of a buzz out of your blood if you're scared.
The adrenaline.
If they can get you to the point where you're just losing your mind and then eat you, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it's a form of seasoning. I really do. I mean, I've heard this before.
Like a meat tenderizer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why we try to kill animals humanely as possible, because that fear it has been proven to taste up in meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might like the taste of the meat when it's seasoned with the testosterone or whatever.
Adrenaline.
This kind of scary thing.
Yes. That's what I think they do that for. And because once you've already seen one, that they've been watching you for a while already. You don't just see one; they're already there. They've already been watching you, and it's they could have already killed you, pretty much. We don't just stumble upon them,
Yeah, I think that
they notice you way before.
Like them. If you're seeing one of these things, it's allowed it to happen.
They either see you as a threat or food, but usually they know better not to mess with humans, because there's evidence if you do.
And these creatures, you believe that they were there long before your people showed up there on the reservation? Yeah. And there's nothing in the Ojibwe legends or creation stories about these creatures?
It actually seems to have started when the British arrived, or the French.
Yeah, because that would make sense. Ojibwe is in Canada, and of course, the area where you guys were from, there was a lot of French influence up in Canada. So that's where that's why you guys call it the Rougarou. Yeah, because that would make sense. That's strictly French right there. The Rougarou, that's French.
You hear that in Louisiana normally.
Yeah, well, they ended up in Louisiana because of that area that
French
they were
Quarter.
in. Yeah, the French got driven out in a battle with the Scottish in Nova Scotia.
So if you think about U.S. history and probably Canadian history, there's not a whole lot of we'll say backstory or original story from what happened, because when Manifest Destiny happened and our people were taken and stolen and put into boarding schools, a lot of our history disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have left is the little bits of history that we have from the French history, like the Rougarou. That's what it's called now. That's what we have. That's all we know, because everything that we had before that was eradicated because we weren't allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. Assimilation.
All of that, yes, because all of that it ended up disappearing because it wasn't anything that we were supposed to talk about. So now, like we talk about the Burger, it only happens during Lent. That's a Christian value. That's a Catholic value that happened when our people, like our reservation, was dominated by.
I believe that coincides with after hunting season. After hunting season is Lent, and that's whenever these things are around. They know there's no guns out there. They know they can hunt without being shot. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I talked to my uncle, I said, did my grandpa or any of your elders ever talk about the dogmen or werewolves or anything like that? He said, the only thing that I know is the Wendigo. He said the Wendigo is something that our tribe believed in, that were around, that were taking our people.
Did the Wendigo that you were presented with as a young person, I mean, when you were told about it, did it resemble a werewolf in any way?
In a way.
The Wendigo can be whatever it wants to be.
Yeah.
In a way, yes. Yes, it did.
So these creatures could be the legends of Wendigo for your people.
They could be.
Because there seems to be like between the Wendigo, the Bigfoot, the Dogman, and the Crawler, it's almost like the lines get blurred of what's what. Because I've had people tell me that crawlers can turn into Bigfoot. And in fact, we're going to do a show about crawlers turning into different creatures. We had a guy come on our show. It was pretty interesting. He was, we found him from a hunting group, like where they go hunting and exploring. And it was one of our members that was in that group. And he met that guy and he sent him our way. But he saw a hog or like a pig type creature turn into a man.
Oh,
that looked like a camper. Now he was on our live stream. You don't remember that, Tony?
It sounds familiar, but
jeez, like he was on our live stream. Like Anthony brought it up a couple episodes ago. We were talking to somebody about it, and he brought it up. It was a shapeshifter type thing, and that's our next episode on Tuesday is going to be about shapeshifters and about different abilities that these creatures have. One of the things I've heard too is that they have like really, really, really expert hearing and smell. But I think these creatures have amazing eyesight too, which kind of gets overlooked. It's like taken for granted, but I think it's to the point where the way that they smell us, they smell the fear. I think that they smell all of that on us and they could sense it, and it's on a different level. Their senses are heightened, and I think that their hearing is like really good. And I think that the crawler uses vibration too. Like I've heard a lot of stories like that. I don't know. I think that their eyesight, some of these crawlers, I've gotten stories of where their eyesight is like not real good. Like they'll climb up a tree and the person stays perfectly still and they don't see it. That's a story that I'm going to tell on Tuesday. It was a girl that told us that story. Her name was Wendy. But I thought it was pretty intense. And when she was a child, one of these things crawled up there. But what happened on their property was really crazy because they saw these things turning into like Bigfoot type creatures, which just, I don't know. It was like they were like caterpillars turning into butterfly or something. And then they would see the Bigfoot and they would just be walking around. But who knows? I mean, I know that Jerry and Ella Williams, the Choctaw, they were saying that these creatures eat humans and then they become Bigfoot. Like in a nutshell, that's kind of what, and if they eat like canines, then they become wolves, I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's pretty plausible because they need the DNA from an animal to take that animal's form.
Yeah.
Just like skinwalkers, I've heard, carry the teeth or the claw of the animal they want to change into around their neck. And that's something that would have DNA or whatever in it.
Or a skin, they would put on a skin. Yeah. Yes. Another story I'm going to talk about is this one came out of Johannesburg, South Africa, and it was a guy that went over there. He was a Belgian. I've known him for years. He's a friend of mine, and he was from Belgium originally, but he went there to do some security work because, of course, it was the carjacking capital of the world, and so he's ex-military, and he's like, I went over there to do a job, and he told me about it, and he was saying that he watched two guys walk into a warehouse. When they went into the warehouse, what he was confronted by was hyena-looking creatures on all fours, but they stood up on their hind legs and moved around like men. And he unloaded like an entire magazine at them, but they just disappeared into the wall, like not through the wall, but there was something. Anyway, I'll talk about that on Tuesday. But yeah, it's crazy though when that by the time this episode airs, it'll have already been out already. So. But it's crazy when you stop and you think about all these. I've been sitting here just kind of listening to the discussion between you and my nephews, and I was going to ask you a couple questions about these creatures. Can you give me a description? Like you said, that looked like the American Werewolf in London. Like, can you give me a description of some of these things? Like, did they all look that way, or were there different looks? Or
the first one, I could kind of tell that it was old, and it was a lot bigger than the ones we've seen lately, like the pack. The pack was like, I'd say like a big Denver wolf, all black, like totally jet black, with like manes on their necks, and very muscular front legs or arms. And they didn't stand up, but you could just tell from their chest and the way they lifted their heads up above the light that they were pretty muscular. So it was just like they were just like giant wolves, the ones I've seen.
And this thing that you saw. Well, let me finish with the description of these creatures. Now, and how you've seen them? What, 4 times?
Yes.
4 times.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought I counted. And but not every time it was the same, right? It was like 2 times they looked the same, but then the other 2 times they were different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like the one that was creeping out of the cattails didn't seem to have a muzzle on it, but it was like jet black. And it did have ears, because I seen the ears pointed back with like tuffles on them. That's what I was like, what the hell kind of animal is that? And as soon as I seen it and pointed at it, it just crawled back right into the cattails. And it had the yellow eye shine.
When you saw the third and fourth creatures, were those 2, did they look the same as the other 2, the first 2?
Well, the ones we both seen together when she brought me to the area and said, let's see them. That one looked a lot different. I thought it had like reddish hair, but I don't know. She got a better look at it. I got to look at it as we passed it, and it turned its head towards us. But she's seen it like on the driver's side, fully eating some animal. I'm not sure what color it was.
So for me, like when I've seen them, they've been more like have you ever watched The Never Ending Story?
Yeah.
So at the end, or like when they're seeing that wolf creature, and he's in the cave, and he's like, "Arr."
The nothing or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's what it looks like for me. Like that's what I've seen, and I've seen it twice. I saw it when we were cruising, and I seen it one more time when we were cruising a back road, and I saw it. So it looks like a big, giant wolf to me, and it's normally dark, like super black, fast, huge. That's what I see.
I forgot about the time in between. We were taking a picture at sunset up on 43, which is really close to the Canadian border. And these geese, as soon as we snapped the picture, these geese like take off like towards the middle of the pond or the lake, and they're like squawking, like what, you know. And I was like, oh, we must have messed up their day or something, you know, trying to take a picture here, you know. I was joking around. next thing you know, we jump in the car and we're driving out, and we've seen what scared the geese away. It was, I'd say, I don't know. It didn't move like a cat. It didn't move like a wolf. It was all black.
It was black and it was huge, and we don't have.
It was during the day. Just before.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of animals that look like that.
Just ran right across the road in front of us, and as soon as it got into the trees across the road, it just disappeared because we stopped to try to see it.
It kind of blacked in, like it felt like it backed into the trees.
Yeah, and it was gone. It was just like, yeah.
But that's what I've seen. Like, it's just a big, giant black.
Yes. I forgot all about the time I've seen it, like in broad daylight.
That's fast and huge.
Very
and
fast.
Not anything that we're supposed to have around here.
So this thing, they move incredibly fast.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why they're able to cover such long distances. And it's said that the skinwalker can do that too. Like I've heard stories of somebody claiming that, well, I don't know. This person claimed they were threatened by a skinwalker. They lived in Arizona, and the person that threatened them was supposedly in New Mexico, and that person was at their doorstep, within a couple of hours. And we're talking like it was 200 miles. So even in a car, they wouldn't have been able to make that distance. So it didn't happen instantaneously like demons can supposedly just instantaneously teleport to you.
Yeah.
This was like this person had to have traveled, but there's no vehicle that they could have done or jumped on a plane. And that person was like trying to tell her that he was a skinwalker. And it was a threat to this woman named Teresa. And she gave us permission to use her name, but I mean, I don't see the point of it. But her name is Teresa, but she lived in Sedona, which I know is a weird place. But the person that was threatening her was like 200 miles away in New Mexico. And it was her friend's best friend. And he supposedly had some sort of power. And he's like, you don't know what you're messing with. He's a skinwalker. And she's like, whatever. And then he showed up in her yard. Like within, a couple of hours, he was there. Like, how does that happen? Like, she said it was like 230 miles away.
Wow.
Like, that's really hard to imagine. Like, that's hard to fathom.
They move so fast that, especially with the underground tunnel systems, they can travel anywhere they want around the world.
And really, you can't mess with, like, magic or culture like that. You don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We're, like, so in the dark about the supernatural. It's really nice that you have a show that gives information about this stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, so many people, we get attacked a lot, and people have asked me before. They're like, "Why does it happen?" I'm like, I think that when you get closer to the truth, the darkness doesn't like it. I tell people that. I tell them all the time. I mean, I think it's constant spiritual warfare. And I'm not making excuses, for whatever. I don't, there's people that their whole lives revolve around attacking us. And you're like, why? I mean, the only thing I can think of is there's jealousy, and then there's, because envy's a big deal. But I mean, I think that a lot of these people are evil. There's just no other way around it. I mean, they can't help themselves when they come into contact with us. They just go berserk because something, and I don't think it's just them. I think what it is something is pulling their strings and getting them to do this, because if they can shut people down that are giving people like you guys, giving you a platform to speak about these things, it disrupts what they're trying to do. And so the deeper we go and the longer we go with this, it just seems like we're under more and more attack, under more and more duress. And some of these people come out of left field. I mean, like, you go to these like sites, like, of course, I'm not going to give them any credit, but there's this trash pit site that everybody knows about, and you can just go on there and type in our name of our show, or just type in my name, and they're attacking me. They're attacking Anthony and Tony here. They attack my wife. They attack everybody that's associated with us, and they have just nothing better to do. I mean, it's like, I don't have time in my life to go to this site and just talk bad about some person that does a podcast, but these people do. And we don't know these people. Most of them we've never even met or done anything to them. They just don't like us, and they don't have a really good reason. There's like a million reasons, but not really one solid reason. It's just because they don't like us. And yeah, it's a nonstop disco with these people.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are actually under malevolent spiritual influence, and they don't even realize it. They'll believe completely and entirely that they're in the right. They'll just pull out all the stops and do everything they can and go full throttle forward in attack mode, and they really don't even know why. They don't know the real reason why or what kind of influence that they're under.
Some of them claim to be Christians and that we're not Christian enough, and I don't think they're very Christian with the things they say. And then others are atheists and they don't like that we're Christian, and it's just like, what is it? Take your pick. I mean, they got so many reasons why they don't like us. When we did one show, I'll tell you guys something. We did a show. It was called. Was it the Black Hell? No, not the Black Hellhounds. It was called Wolfmen, Texas Wolfmen.
Yeah, Texas Wolfmen.
When we did that show, we got death threats. I'm talking like 2 or 3 different times somebody messaged us with different email addresses, and they asked us, they said, can you please stop talking about these things because it's very bad for you? And I'm like, okay. No, I'm not. And then the next one was like, they kind of stepped it up and they said, yeah, you keep on talking about this stuff and something's going to happen. And then another one came in and they said, oh, we've been around for a long time and you need to stop talking about this stuff. These were humans. Obviously they were typing, unless there was some kind of alien, but I mean, I don't know what but they were referring to themselves as these black, wolves, these, yeah, and I'm just like, what in the heck are these people? Like, I didn't get that from, and I had it one other time, but I didn't get that from a lot of the other shows. But that one in particular, and one guy, he goes, I've been listening to everything you've been saying since the beginning of your, start at this other show, and he's like, and if you keep on something, I'm just telling you right now, he goes, I like you. I don't think you're a bad guy. You're an honest guy, but something bad's going to happen to you. And I'm like, are you threatening me? And he's like, no, not from me. He's like, but these other forces, they're out there. I know that they're looking at you. And that person claimed that they worked for some kind of government agency, but they didn't give me any coordinates or anything. Like, they didn't say who they were, what they were. And they just said that we've been monitoring you. And basically just kind of like, I took it, and Anthony and Tony both took it as like a joke, like take it with a grain of salt. But it was weird, though, because he was acting very friendly, but he was also giving me the advice that I needed to scale it back or tone it down, and definitely to stop talking about the situation over there where I'm from. And I was just like, okay. And that person actually reached out to me one other time, and I don't know. At the time, it kind of spooked us a little bit, at least me, because they knew quite a bit, and I'm wondering if it was somebody that maybe was messing with me that I went to school with or something. We were trying to figure it out. But ultimately, it could actually be just what they said they were. They could say, look, we were watching you, and I don't think you're a bad person, but something bad's going to happen to you if you keep talking about this stuff. And here we are still. It's like, what, 2 years later?
Yeah.
I mean, from that point, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and we're still doing what we do. We get weird emails every now and then, though. People saying weird stuff, but not like that.
A big part of it, too, is just the fact that we try to bring as many different perspectives and ideas onto our show as possible. And, a lot of them are very different from one another. And, people will be like, oh, well, they believe all this crazy stuff. They believe this, and that, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, just because you may not agree with or even understand certain perspectives or ideas, that doesn't mean those ideas don't deserve a platform as well, because people have to make up their own minds about these things, and they have to have access to as many different beliefs as possible so that they can try and navigate their way through exactly what it is they're dealing with. Especially people like yourselves who have experienced this phenomena firsthand. It's a traumatizing, it's a life-changing thing. There is no going back from it.
Craig, I got a question for you. You had claimed to have had a Bigfoot encounter too. Like, can you explain that to us?
I seen this thing walking on a hill. It was like 3 times the size of a tree. So I was like, I got the wife to stop. I was like, check this thing out. I just seen this thing walking. Let's start recording it. And it stops and just it kind of puts its arm down and tries to look like a tree. And we stopped and we turned around and we put our lights on it, brights on it, honked at it, yelled at it. It wouldn't move. And I got a few pictures of it, but we just got out of the area after a while because we thought, hell, we're just messing with this thing, and it doesn't want to be messed with. After the rock situation, we figured, why provoke them?
Yeah. Better safe than sorry.
So tell us about the rock situation, because you told us off air, but you didn't tell us on the show.
I usually don't do this, but I emptied my cigarette ashtray out the window of this area by the lake, where we usually kick back, watch the sunset. And as we're driving out, something threw a big rock right out from the trees, and it hit like the column in between your front window and your side window, and it just like, well, at first we thought maybe a kid, but no, it was too big of a rock, and straight out of the trees. We just stopped for a second and we got out of the area because it was just too crazy of a thing to happen. We couldn't figure out what would be able to throw a rock like that. And we actually didn't realize there was Bigfoot in the area until we had started seeing the dogmen. And that's when I talked to a few elders, and they said, yeah, there had been Bigfoot in the area for a long time. They marked the territory by pulling trees out from the roots and putting them upside down, and that's the area you're supposed to not hunt in. So that's pretty much all they told me about them. And after that, I was like, God, this has got to be what's protecting the lakes, maybe even protecting the reservation, from whatever creatures there are, like the Wendigo, or the dogmen. But dogmen seem to just stick to their prey animal, like deer or moose or other animals we have in the area. It seems like they just stick to their natural prey.
So you don't feel like Bigfoot's like a threatening creature at all?
In our area,
No.
if you litter or try to mess up, I'd say cut down some trees. Yeah, he would be aggressive.
It's funny. She said no. She said yeah right away. Like women tend to have a more of an ambivalent like whereas men sometimes have some aggressive encounters with Bigfoot. Unless a woman has had a specifically aggressive encounter with a Bigfoot, then they always tend to kind of think that they're benign.
Yeah.
Well, we're taught to, and
because I know the rock was not thrown at her, but me for littering.
Yeah.
We're taught to respect the creatures that are around us. And
yes.
But wouldn't that be respecting the dog man too, though? If you had to respect it.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could get a good relationship with them. I don't know how to do that, but
yeah, I don't either. I've never heard.
Well, so they're alive.
They seem to be very intelligent. They already know their agenda, and you're not part of their world. We'd never survive in their world.
No, not at all. What do you think though about the reports? Because we get lots of reports of them being aggressive and doing things that aren't very nice. Not all of them. We get stories that aren't. But what do you think about that? The stories that you get, like, because I mean, I've heard of Dogman and Bigfoot on the same property, and both of them are just equally nasty.
This particular dogman that targeted us was trying to get my son to come outside, trying to get my dog to come play, and trying to bait me outside. So they're pretty smart, and they're pretty dangerous.
How did they try to bait you outside? Tell us that.
It had my dog hiding under the picnic table from it, and when my wife heard weird growling noises and the dog like kind of whimpering out there, she sent me out to go check on it. So when I did, this was after all of our encounters, and after we had, I don't know, luckily I say, got home safe, that it showed up there, and it definitely tried to get near the dog to confront it.
So it was trying to kill your dog?
Or me.
Or to get you to come outside so it could kill you?
Because the window was wide open. Our back window is like right, where this happened. It was probably watching us watch TV or whatever from our tree back there. And once it did enough growling, it got my wife irritated or whatever, to where she's like, "Go check that out. Go check on the dog." Otherwise, it would just scared my dog all night until killed it. Maybe, I don't know, but I went out and I let him off the chain, and because I heard something in a tree. When I did, it did not go for it. It went right to the house, let itself in the door, because we have one of those door handles that will let him in. He just takes a spot and lets himself. He got in, ditched me, and I'm like in the backyard, with this thing. So I'm pretty sure it baited me out there.
Yeah, because if it wanted to kill your dog, if the dog was the target, then it would have, taken it.
Yes, it used my dog to bring me out.
Yeah, it definitely shows an advanced level of intelligence, comparatively speaking, to other wildlife.
Yeah, and it probably didn't think I was going to yell as loud as I did. I'm pretty sure you could hear me through the whole town. When I yelled Sabe, for my dog, I was like, I yelled so loud, it just, then after that, all I could hear is it crunching into the tree, like a big crunch, and it just like kind of tore half the tree apart, and that whole area is all dead where it was standing underneath. It's all dead there still, and
all the vegetation
just in that area that it was is all dead.
Oh wow!
And now, even though it snowed here for like almost a week, that tree has green leaves still. The only tree in town, actually, that still has leaves. So it's really weird.
Yeah, I think that both of these, whether it's a Bigfoot or a Dogman, or pretty much any cryptid out there, I think they're all going to be hyper territorial. If you're on their home turf, they're not going to want you there, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get rid of you, to remove you from their territory. But it seems like in y'all's experience that the Dogman werewolf creature was a lot more vindictive because it came straight to where you live.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I think a lot of people see them, but they just pass it off as maybe a shadow, or maybe another animal or something, or they just can't comprehend it.
Yeah, and we've also gotten reports of both Bigfoot and Dogman using these cloaking abilities. People will report that they see that the way it looks is if you've seen that movie The Predator, the way you can kind of see, like, it's transparent, but you can still kind of see like the light bending around it.
Yeah.
These things are out there a lot more than what people realize. They're actually in the presence of them a lot more commonly, but they're completely oblivious to it.
One of my theories is that they use the migration of the animals when they're moving through certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like our deer were in the hundreds around the reservation, and now maybe there's 30 left after the dogmen have come through. And I think they wait and they travel all around maybe the U.S., maybe around the world, who knows? But using the underground system where you don't have to cross oceans or borders. You can hunt seasonally everywhere. The whole Earth is a buffet if you follow the migration.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because whether these cryptids are just flesh and blood or whether they're both flesh and blood and metaphysical, regardless, when they exist in a physical form, they still have to eat. They still have to follow the rules of our physical world.
Yes, and that's why I believe in their physical aspect because they need fresh water. They've only been spotted around here, around our spring water, our fresh spring. That's where we've seen them. And I've known they need food. They need fresh water to survive. So I know that's how we can kill them.
I think one of the things too, people they lose sight of the fact that these things, when they come into our world, they have to, like we said earlier, they have to become more physical, and they do need to eat and drink and do things. But you're right about killing them, at least taking their corporeal body, but the spirit is still there. I mean, it's evil.
Yeah. So when I reached out to these groups, these dogman groups, for help, they could offer me ways to, they told me to wash my car after I'd been in contact with them, to carry bear mace, carry sound devices, very loud sound devices, stuff like that. But they didn't tell me how to keep them away. And if there's any way, or like a scent thing you guys know about, I've heard something like farmers spray their land and to keep them away. Have you guys heard this?
There's been different techniques that people have said to me about how to keep them at bay. And one guy actually said that he told us this, he's from Indiana or Iowa. He said that they abhor the smell of a skunk. And they literally will not come on the property. That he witnessed ones getting sprayed and running off from it. So I don't know. I've heard that their sense of smell is heightened even more powerful than a dog's or a wolf's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. Different people have said things about that. It's just different stories you've gotten from different people. I know that I got a story out of Puerto Rico. These people working in a sugarcane field, and these creatures were coming around. And one of the things they did that actually kept them out, they have these vocalizations that they used of cats, of just real loud, just screeching and loud in the fields, and it kept them out. But they were seeing weird stuff that was when I was working with Vic, and me and him both talked about this, and it was a story that I had gotten, and we went over it, and before I told it on the show, but I believe it was on his show, and then later on, I know you probably remember, Tony, you and me and Armando talked briefly about that story.
Yeah, the cat thing made it sound familiar.
Yeah, they use the sounds of cats, and they use the sounds of donkeys braying. Donkeys braying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they mixed them together, and but it was so bad for the workers. Anyone to hear that shit.
I was going to say that's got to keep anyone and anything away.
No one wants to hear that all day. I'd be like, okay, maybe the dog man's an alternative here. Maybe he'll just get, one of our friends over here and I'll live, But what you
got to do is get yourself a recording of Ben Stein giving a lecture. It'll put the creature to sleep.
He's like Bueller.
So, and I mean, I'm ashamed to say that though, but when I first seen this thing, I was so obsessed with wondering where it came from and finding out where it lived that I brought my friends out and when we were hunting, but we were really looking for this, and they didn't know, that I was putting them in danger. It was crazy until I was like, man, okay, that's probably the only one. After 10 years of looking, it's got to be the only one. Until I moved to this place, way closer to my first sighting, where they have legends of them.
Well, at least you feel bad about it. Heck, we know people who go out and take their family out looking for these things, and they don't even care about their own family's safety and well-being. I mean, it's pretty sad, but I mean, that happens.
And coming to grips with knowing that they're almost unstoppable, it changed my way of living. Like, I'm not living to find these things anymore. I'm living to live a normal life, you know?
Yeah. What are your plans for the future? Are you planning on trying to find this still? Or do you have people to help you? Or are you just going to let it go and just hope for the best that they don't come back around? Or what do you think is going to happen?
Well, we're still doing our night drives.
Yeah.
And we are definitely looking for Bigfoot. But if we see a dog man, I'm going to try to get it on video. And, whatever happens. We're not going to quit what we like to do. And which is seeing wildlife at night. And these things are just showing up with the wildlife.
I would say this. Don't put yourself in danger to get a video because it's not going to help. A lot of times people are going to look at that and go, fake. You could literally risk your life, or it could be killing you, and they find the camera footage and then they'll just say, oh, it's a fake. It's a documentary fake. It doesn't matter nowadays because they have so many AI. AI has just ruined so much. There's people using fake AI stories.
That and CGI. And it's just fake. It's all fake. And then you can't. And so, anybody sees something real, they don't believe it.
What really sucks about trying to get these things on camera is they move so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, oh man, I don't know how we'd be able to get them. Because they know, they can smell the plastic in your cameras out there, in your game cams. I mean, these people that are going out looking for Bigfoot and putting up game cams, they can smell that. They know that stuff's out there. When you go knocking, they know you're there. They're not going to show up. It's like you're never going to find them because everything you've been taught is wrong. You have to go out there in silence and maybe pray and maybe, just get in touch with nature, and then they show up.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to close so we can close? Anything else you guys want to talk about or say before we close this out?
No, that's about it.
Well, it was definitely good talking to you guys. Thank you for giving us your information.
Yeah, guys, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. The audience, I'm sure, like this a lot, and I appreciate you bringing your stories to me. I know that you were apprehensive, and folks, I had to kind of talk Craig into doing it, but you wanted to do it, and then it was kind of like you kind of didn't, but I really thought that it needed to come from you. As
understandable.
Being, a Ojibwe native, it would hold a lot of weight,
It just, it's something that people don't talk about around here, and it's like, if you do, you're singled out.
Yeah, you're looked badly upon.
Yes.
Well, we all come from cultures. Tony, you're Vietnamese. Anthony and me are Hispanic, and you guys are native. And when our cultures, like Anthony said earlier, we were raised not to be talking about it a lot because if you do, then you bring it up, and it's like, why would you do that? It's Diablo.
That's why I wanted to do it while we were driving. I did not want to talk about it at our house
or sitting stationary.
Yeah.
Get it.
It's oh God, I don't know, man. You guys are getting down to the bottom of the real deal. So I can't wait until we get enough information on these things to know, to be safe.
Well, you guys, and when we do our next conference, I hope that you guys come down and make the trip. It would be very nice to have you guys there.
That'd be cool to see other people and hear other experiences. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want you there. We'll be in touch, Craig, and you guys don't be a stranger. And if you're in the chat or something, say hi. Or if you're coming to the live stream, and if you guys have anything you want to say or whatever, or pose a question, and we could start a debate. We like to talk about that on the show and the live streams, and we do a lot of work on the live streams. And anyways, folks, that's all the time we have for tonight for Paranormal Roundtable. Thank you for tuning in. Craig, Brian, is that how you say your name, Bryn?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And your wife, does she want to say any closing words or?
No.
No.
Keep up the good work.
She's
guys.
like, no, I don't like this discussion. I'm done with it.
I want to go home and go to bed.
Guys, really.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you everybody who tuned in tonight, and thank you from everybody here at Paranormal Roundtable. Myself,
Mushu,
Anthony,
we're all here. If you need us, message us, hit us up on email, or you can reach out to any one of us. How can they find you, Mushu? I know you got.
You can find me at email. It would be prtmushu@gmail.com, and you'll find me on my Instagram and Facebook.
He works a lot, but he doesn't do nothing. So he's out there.
I work on myself a lot.
He's doing self-improvement out there playing video games on post.
He's improving his thumb strength.
Yeah. All right, folks. All right, we'll see you guys. Good night.